Hello.
Hello and welcome to Build on Open Source, episode 8 of season 2, the show that walks you through the latest open source projects and news and invites special guests, very, very special guests, to talk about their open source projects. I'm Ricardo. I'm joined, as always, by my lovely host, Derek. Derek, hello.
Well, hello there, Rick. You say as always, but I think this is the first time we've been together for a number of weeks.
It is, I know. Yeah, and you did such a great show with Abhishek last week. So Abhishek, if you're watching, hope you're enjoying your holidays.
Thanks,
yeah. So how was it? How was last episode with Romaric and Kaveri and Replibytes?
Oh, it was fantastic. Really, really good. We had a great chat. Although I was a bit frazzled, having been
yes, you've been busy
all day speaking. So I hope it wasn't too bad. If you want to see last episodes, by the way, folks, hi Skabalu, by the way. You can check it out on the AWS Twitch channel. We've created a little collection with all our show details,
and also I feature them on the newsletter. I have on the newsletter that we talk about. We have the list of all the shows, so you can check that out. So for those people who are joining for the first time, welcome. Or for those people who are already part of the Build on Open Source family, welcome back.
What's the show all about, Rick? What do we do in this show?
What we do? Well, so basically, normally we do two things, right? At least two things anyway. We look at the latest open source projects. We go through the open source newsletters. So we're going to be going through last week's and the one I'm about to publish. So some really cool sort of early stuff that no one else has seen. So hanging on for that. And then we have a guest. Now, normally we do the news first, don't we, Derek?
We do. And usually viewers have to put up with us, just waffling on about what's new in open source. And sometimes we do demos, and Abhishek done an excellent one last week. So check that out in the past episode. But I think we're doing it different this week. People don't have to listen to us.
Yeah, we are. So this week, basically, so the show is going to be after we shut up in a few seconds. We're going to bring on our special guest, Cristian from Autospotting, and he's going to talk to us about some of his open source projects. So if you're into cost optimization, you definitely are going to be interested in what he's got to say and his demos. And then after Cristian goes, we'll then basically transition to
talk some more.
Yeah, we'll talk some more about some really cool open source projects that you need to be checking out, and then we'll wrap up at the end. So that's the show this week. I think without further ado, maybe we should.
I'm excited.
Should we bring on Cristian?
Yep, let's do it.
Whee!
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to Build on Open Source. For people who are new to the show, this is Cristian. Do you want to give them an intro?
Yeah, so my name is Cristian. I'm a specialist in cost optimization. So I've been working with AWS for more than 10 years now and doing cost optimization for much of that, like 7-8 years now. A lot of it building tools for cost optimization with Spot instances, but then I worked also at AWS for a few years in a similar solution architect role, also for covering Spot and Graviton. Now I'm kind of back in my original work with open source and offering services to customers.
Picking the area of cost optimization is very topical.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Very the good timing on your part. I mean, that's actually how I got to know about you, Cristian, because I think way back a few years ago when I started off my newsletter, I featured some of your projects. So you came on my radar. And I think then you might have still been working at AWS. So it's good to actually have you now on the show. Now that you've left the AWS family and you're kind of heading out into the big wide world, to talk about and help customers optimize their EC2 environments, right? So Cristian, what are you gonna talk about today? What are you gonna show us?
Yeah, so basically I have a bunch of tools that help you look into your costs, and basically I have in between helping customers with hands-on work, I build these tools and I release most of it as open source. Some of them I try to also monetize through the AWS marketplace as a sort of, let's say, passive revenue. But then most of it is open source. You can also install the commercial ones. Also have an open source core, so you can also use that. But I just have a bunch of enhancements that I publish to the marketplace. It's actually one of the few if not the only one, serverless application that's available on the marketplace, completely written with.
That's pretty exciting.
With Lambda.
Yep. So how did you actually? So what was your open source journey? How did you first get started? Because we do like to ask on the show how people got started.
Yeah, I mean, I started back 2001 or so. I started using Linux back in the high school.
Okay.
I got into this idea of open source very early on from using that, and eventually in the university, I was like completely all in on trying out Linux distributions and stuff. Then I got a job and eventually kept contributing to various projects. I was in the Google Summer of Code a few times.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, and then eventually went into the cloud space about 10 years ago. And there I continued building things and eventually started to build this tool for spot instances, auto spotting, which I'm going to show today. I mean, the tool itself is completely headless. It's running in a Lambda function, but I have since built a UI for it, or not just for it. It's a UI that can be used also to configure it. So that's kind of what I'm going to show today. I'm going to show this relatively new UI and how you set up the tool with it.
Yeah, okay. And we usually, Christian, in the show we ask, what itch were you trying to scratch? But I think in your case, it's the itch that you were seeing with customers when you were working in AWS. Is that a true statement?
It was before AWS. I was working at Nokia, and there was a case where we were doing cost optimization back with Nokia when Nokia was struggling with selling its part of the business. And the part that I was in eventually was sold to the German car makers. And before it was sold, I started to use spot instances in an auto scaling group. And back at the time, there was no diversification. So you had one instance type in the group. And if that was not available, you were running out of capacity. Basically, I came up with the idea from a meetup. I went to an AWS meetup here in Berlin, and just at the time, there was this discussion in the meetup at the end. What if we would use attach and detach actions that were just released on auto scaling groups around 2014, 2015 to replace each of the instances in the group with spot instances? So I just went home and started to build this.
Yep.
And it actually worked. And basically, I actually wanted at the time to just write something to learn the Go programming language. This was the perfect project for that, and to use Lambda. So I kind of went all in on Go and Lambda even before Go and Lambda were a thing in AWS. And I was running all sorts of workarounds, like with a Python wrapper around it to download my code from S3 and run it, and all sorts of weird workarounds.
So you're a gopher.
Pretty cool.
You're a gopher then. You're now fully into the Go language, right? I have to ask you. You talked about Linux early on, and you tried what's your go-to Linux distribution?
I started with I think I started with Mandrake at the time, then went to Gentoo, and then to Ubuntu, and nowadays I'm like more into Mac OS. So not so much Linux anymore, but
you've went mainstream. You went mainstream, Christian.
Yeah. Well, I think all of us are back here, so I think we can't. We all know that journey. Although I do have to my left, I have my trusty Ubuntu machine, which I depend upon day in day out. So okay, so listen, great setup. So let's bring your screen on and let's see some of this stuff in action then, Christian.
You did an excellent job, Rick, with the control.
I am. I'm amazing myself. I think what it is though. I think what it is, Derek. I just feel comfortable with your presence. I feel, I have no worries. I just feel like I can sense all your StreamYard knowledge,
expertise,
kind of imbuing. Exactly.
I will step in if anything goes awry.
Yeah, and so for people who are just joining, sorry, before you start, for people who are just joining, we have Christian who's going to be talking to us about his open source project Auto Spotting. If you've got any questions, then put them in the comments, and Christian, as he goes along, he'll do his best to answer them. So Christian, sorry about that. Carry on.
Yeah, thank you. So this is the website of my tool, just to kind of see what it does. It just replaces your on-demand instances with Spot, and basically you can reduce your costs as you deploy it. It's available on GitHub. There is like a comparison. I have with auto scaling groups. What is the difference? Where I bring some more value, and this is like the open source versus my commercial version that's available on the marketplace. It's just so you can see.
I like that. I like that. I think that's good. I think it's nice that you have a progression, right? Because I think that it's good that you can see what you can do with the product by yourself, and then obviously how you can add value providing a managed service. Because I think that's one of the things that when I hear from customers is that they love open source, but quite often they want someone to manage open source for them, right? So it's a good model.
Then the way it works is just basically a Lambda function that runs in your account, and it looks at your auto scaling groups. And what it needs is to have the groups tagged in a certain way. In this case, I have here a group of 2 instances, but it doesn't have any tags. So these instances are just in the account, part of the group, and they are running, and they are normal on-demand instances. And what I have is this UI that goes to your region and lists your groups, and for each of the groups it shows you how much does it cost to run this group, how many instances you have, and how much you would save by converting it to Spot instances.
Yeah. Cristian, sorry, I'll jump in first, Rick. I know we got lots of questions about this already. So, Cristian, my first question, and the question, because I used to be an SA as well, the question I always got was, is that cost in US dollars or is it specific to my country?
It's dollars. It's just dollars.
Yep.
Okay, well, I've not been an SA, so I can't join the SA. I can't join. Yeah, I can't join the SA club. But the question I've got is that what you're showing us here. Okay, this screen. How did you get this? What did you run? Because obviously we've gone from the AWS console to this screen here.
Oh, yeah.
What have you done?
This is another tool of mine which I wrote this year. It's called Savings Estimator.
Yeah, I have featured that in the newsletter. I did feature this one in the newsletter. So so regular readers will know the newsletter that I feature all these open source. So tools like Cristian's are always featured in here because they're awesome. So okay, so effectively it's a new project, and so this is open source as well, is it, Cristian?
Yeah, this is fully open source. So this doesn't have any commercial thing. This you can run on your own, even if you don't plan to use auto spotting, just to see how much you would save by adopting Spot. And you can adopt Spot any way you want for these groups. You can configure them manually. It's just that the tool also I integrated it with auto spotting to make it even easier.
Of course, yeah, makes sense. And it's Go. So, obviously, it's written in Go.
It's written in Go, and I use a toolkit called Fine, which is really nice to build UIs in Go.
What's it called?
And
Fine?
under the hood, it's also using the AWS SDK for Go to look at these instances and stuff.
Okay.
The pricing. And
so what was the Go framework?
Fine.
Fine.
Fyne.
Oh, okay. Well, check that out.
I'm checking it out.
I didn't know you could do kind of like front end stuff with that.
No,
so
yeah.
Well, you can if you find the right tools.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Okay, so basically, so that repo, you build the repo or you run the executable, and then basically, how does it know does it pick up your AWS credentials from the .aws file, or you configure a profile, right? Okay.
Yeah, it takes your profile from the disk from your home directory, and then it connects to the region. And
what's that? So is it just going through your AWS environments, like this through the screen, and then interacting with auto scaling groups it finds anyone, right, that you've got access to?
Yeah, it just needs read access to the groups, and I actually have in the GitHub I have a way to provide a role for it with just limited permissions, so it doesn't do anything else. The only right action it does is tagging the groups, because maybe you want to configure, let's say, keeping some of the capacity as on demand. Let's say in this group we can keep one on demand, and then it's updating the savings if you just keep one as on demand. And then if you enable, then it updates on the back on the bottom side how much you would save.
Yeah, that's nice. So you can play around with those settings and get your optimal costs out from them.
So when you click on enable, though, Cristian, what's it actually doing? Is it actually making any changes to your environment? Is it actually writing to your?
Not yet, but you do this button here, the generate configuration. This will generate some tags on the group. So you see the group has no tags right now.
Yep.
But if you press on generate, it says it was persisted to tags, and then you need to install auto spotting, which I already have.
Okay. Yep.
And then if we refresh this group, we should see the tags.
No, there they are. Nice. Okay, that's excellent.
So this is the enabled, and this is the number. And my challenge for a lot of time was getting people to set these tags correctly, because you could see sometimes they were just putting a typo or using underscore here or doing typos or whatever. Yep. And it's much easier.
I'd be guilty of that, Cristian. Absolutely be guilty of that.
So it's much easier with this. And now with the tag there, my tool will take over this group, and it will replace gradually its instances.
Okay.
What we could do is we could launch another instance just to see how it works. So now if we look at instances, we should soon see a new one. Yeah.
There we go.
But this is still on demand. And then the tool will launch a new spot instance immediately.
Oh, okay.
And then it terminates the on-demand instance that has this ID. So this one will soon be terminated.
Oh, okay.
And then it attaches. So it attaches to the group.
It's effectively replacing it. Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a few seconds to terminate it, but it has to first attach the spot to the group, and then after it's attached, immediately terminates. Yeah. So that's kind of how it works. I mean,
so just to recap, so basically, whilst this is updating, so what effectively the tool does is that for the EC2 instances, there's a tag that you set. You have a Lambda function that is looking through the EC2 instances within an auto-scaling group that match that tag, and then effectively there's a rule, I guess, somewhere that basically changes them from. Like you mentioned, detach and attach. It's then basically detaching and attaching spot instances based on that tagging information. Is that right?
Yeah, the tag is set on the group itself, so it doesn't have to be on the instance, just the groups.
Yep.
And the UI controls the tagging for the groups.
Yep.
So
that's
kind of how it works.
Yep. So basically, you've built it so even an idiot like me could use it, which is excellent.
Well, yeah, trying to make things easy.
Yep. Nice.
Sorry, I'm having some headphone issues.
Yeah, you've run out of batteries, I think.
I have run out of batteries. You're right.
A rookie error, I must say.
Oh, that'll teach me. That'll teach me. So apologies for that distraction.
Yep. So Cristian, when you mentioned, I've got a question which is related to something that you said earlier, and I never got a chance to ask it. You said you got one of the only Lambda applications in the marketplace. How do you charge for that? Just out of interest. Nope, Christian's gone. Well, wow, everything's happening today. Hey, folks, so this is actually live, and
exactly, and this is what happens when you have live shows. So I'm sure Christian will be back. Christian, are you back?
No.
Or either Christian is back, or he's very, very still.
Yeah, he's gone. Right,
he's gone.
Let's just remove that.
But it's okay. We can carry on.
Yeah.
So whilst Christian is battling with his local Wi-Fi demons,
and you're fixing your headphones.
I'm fixing my headphones. Although I'm hoping it doesn't sound too bad. I hope there's no echo or there's.
You're good.
Yeah, I have turned the stuff down. Oh, Christian's back. I think Christian's coming back. Yes, Christian, welcome back. And maybe not.
No. Let me just remove. There's two Christians now. I'm going to remove that, and hopefully.
Yeah. Let's wait until he's back. Oh no, he's back now. I'll let you do the buttons.
There we go.
Christian, welcome back.
Can you hear us?
You're on mute. You're on mute, Christian.
Yeah, I think I got disconnected for a few seconds.
You did.
To us, it felt like minutes.
It was right at an important point, because Derek was asking a good question around marketplace and how does that work? How does that whole monetization thing work when you? I think that's what you're asking, was it, Derek?
Yeah, absolutely. For something that runs on what is a service, Lambda?
Yeah, so basically it's available on the marketplace, and every hour the Lambda is publishing billing information from your account. It does the difference between the on-demand and the spot price, and it calculates 5% of that and bills it through the marketplace.
Oh, nice.
Okay, that's cool.
I think that's fair. I mean, if you're saving customers lots of money, then that's your cut, right?
You're actually taking a cut of the savings. That's very.
I try to make it as little as possible, but also to kind of be able to get something out of it. And people still can use the open source version. As I said, it's still working. There are just a bunch of enhancements in the commercial version, like in the way the instances are replaced. Basically, the open source version is relying on the auto scaling group. When a spot termination happens, the group will launch the replacement instance, and then I do the replacement later. But what I have on the marketplace is shortcutting this process. So whenever there is a notification, I immediately launch the spot replacement. And if not, I do the on-demand launch myself, also with diversification. So you get even more chances to have capacity than your initial group configuration, because you have more instance types to choose from. For on-demand, which can sometimes happen to run out of on-demand capacity as well.
For sure.
So that's kind of the differentiator between on-demand and between open source and commercial. There's also something related to the task draining. So I have load balancer draining, and for ECS, I also automate the task draining in the commercial version, and a bunch of other small improvements, but these are kind of the main ones.
And how do you work out, Christian? So you've got the open source version, and the community, I assume, are open to raise issues and feature requests. How do you manage that? And are you looking for contributors at the minute?
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's interested in this, I would love to have contributions. Basically, the way it works, those contributions will remain in the open source version, but I may also incorporate them in the commercial version. So it's this open core model for this. But especially for the UI, I'm looking for contributors, because the UI is generic, so you can just run it without auto spotting itself. So you can just run it by itself. And for that kind of I would like to get contributors on the UI, people who are interested in building UI applications in Go, that could talk to AWS APIs. So yeah.
So one thing I might have missed. Okay, so the UI that you showed, okay, that's written in Go using Fine, allows you to explore your AWS auto scaling groups and effectively do modeling, right? Model different scenarios. Okay. And maybe I might have missed it because my headphones failed, so apologies. At which point then do you actually create the bit between the I've decided that this is what I want to do versus then the Lambda function knowing how to basically start changing your auto scaling groups? Is that just done through the tagging? So what does the tool basically just then write tags to those instances? Okay.
The UI just applies
tags the group.
Yeah.
Sorry?
It tags the group.
It tags the group. We both said tags the group at the same time.
Okay. And then how does it know what type of so I guess it just basically does a like for like, right? So it basically tries to for that particular instance type, it looks at the spot pool, basically does a like for like, right?
The UI doesn't do any of that. So the UI just applies the tags, and then the auto spotting engine knows of instance types, how much memory CPU they have, and then the pricing they have. So it calculates a list of instance type candidates, let's say from the initial size, but then up to the price of the original on-demand price. So basically it generates a list of maybe, I don't know, 10, 20, even more, 30 instance types.
Right.
And it orders them by price. And the order is also influenced by the instance generation. So if I have two instances within the same price, but one is newer than the other one, the newer one will be put in front. So this API, this list is given to the EC2 API, and EC2 gives me the first available at the lowest price from the newest generation. And it gives me that instance ID, and I just take that instance ID and attach it to the group, and then do the detach of the original instance. And that's kind of how it works.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Cool. And I kind of like, and I'm maybe you can't share this information, but you know, obviously you've got people using this tool, right? Do you get a sense of how much customers using this are saving? Is it, you know, are they saving like 20%, 30%? You know, do you have an idea of, or can you share roughly ballpark, you know, how many, you know, pennies that, or even more than pennies that the people are sort of collectively being able to save using tools like auto spotting?
I mean, back when I was working in AWS, I learned of a big customer. I cannot give any names, but they were saving in the tens of millions a year with the open source version.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Basically, it depends on your scale, on your size. Each of the instances depends on the spot prices for them and so on. But spot prices can vary anywhere between, let's say, 20-30% typically to up to 90%.
Right.
The average is around 50-60%, depending again on region, instance type. And since I always try to give the cheapest ones, you kind of get towards the highest possible savings. Even if some instances may be more expensive, those will not be selected.
Yeah.
So yeah, typically if you have a customer, let's say, spending 10K a month on entire AWS, roughly 50-60% tends to be EC2, and out of that, about let's say 70-80% is usually in auto scaling groups, and out of that, let's say 80% you can convert with this tool, and then you have that cut in half. So you can do all the math.
Yeah.
But typically is in the like 20-30% of the entire cost could be reduced.
And so this is across all use cases, right? So there's no one, for example, you don't see, customers not necessarily having one specific use case where they apply this to, right? It could be across all different types of workloads. So ECS or EKS or, maybe even data analytics that runs under, EC2 instances. Can it work across all of those different types of infrastructure, or is it only specifically where you provision EC2 instances?
It's the only requirement is to have auto-scaling groups and that the application doesn't mind interruptions. So being moved from one node to the other.
Yeah.
And that usually works well if your application is behind a load balancer, or if you're running containers, or if your application is processing data from an SQS queue, maybe. So these are the typical scenarios where it's actually a good fit. There's, of course, a lot of things where it doesn't work. So, for example, if you're running a database, no, I don't want to be responsible for people losing data.
Don't do that.
But
although
yeah.
there is an emerging, there's an emerging pattern, isn't there, in databases where they separate the compute layer from the storage layer, right? So maybe at some point in the future where, the compute layer is completely abstracted away, then maybe it might be something. Because I know there's a few now serverless databases that are emerging, such as Neon, where they do this kind of stuff, right? To optimize not just the cost, but also the performance. So you can scale down to really to zero and scale up again. So I think it's the benefit of that is that because they do that now, you can also start applying some of these tools to it as well, right?
Yeah.
Very cool.
One day.
So
cool.
There's one. There's one thing actually I forgot to ask Cristian actually, and you know what it is, Derek, don't you?
Have you got the board? Have you got the board, Rick?
I've got the board.
Bring out the board.
But I'm not sure if you've seen the board yet, Cristian.
No.
But you can see we've got you here.
Have you got stickers down the bottom?
Wow.
So the board is a really important board, right? And we decide, who are the friends of the show and who are the foes of the show, okay? And it's all to do with whether you enjoy or not. When you go into your favorite pizzeria, okay, and you ask for pizza, do you? And the guy behind the pizza, behind the bar, because this is a quality pizzeria, and they offer their customers pineapple on pizza. When they ask you, do you want pineapple on pizza? What do you say? Do you say, yes, please? Or do you say, I think I need to find a new pizzeria? So which one?
I mean, I'm in the not so much into that.
No! Oh my word! So you're in this crowd here. You're in this group here. Actually, I've just got rid of. I've just covered John there. So apologies, John, if you're watching.
Yeah, pineapple is a fruit, and Cristian doesn't have it on his pizza. Yeah.
I think we're being crowded out. We're being crowded out by this group here. So,
I think, Rick, what's happened is everybody's scared of the board because you so many stickers you put on the top and the bottom there. I'm like, what is that? The board is morphed into more of an artistic
yes,
license.
Indeed. I'm always looking to decorate it. Okay, and actually, I recently bought my wife one of these thermal printers. They're amazing, right? Yeah. They're quite cheap. They're about £20, and they're small little cute little boxes which you connect your phone to, and then you buy these rolls of thermal paper. It took me all the way back to the early days of ZX80 and ZX Spectrums, where you used to have the early thermal printers. Well, here basically the app is all about doing stickers, and you use the app, and it allows you to do some really nice stickers, and then it prints through this thermal printer, and it's absolutely amazing. And they're stickers, so you can stick them anywhere. So I have got lots of ideas for this board, and Cristian, if you've got stickers for auto spotting, that I send them through and I'll stick them on the board. Is there? I think have we covered everything that we wanted to learn about auto spotting? Have you got anything other projects you want to talk about, Cristian?
I mean, I have all sorts of projects that I built over time in between my consulting work. Basically, I built something for the marketplace that makes it easy to deploy configuration changes on your marketplace offering, which I think you also shared a few months back.
Yes.
And there was something that I built for sending emails that you dump files in S3 bucket and you want them to be sent by email sometimes. So I have a mailer for S3 that sends you attachments when somebody drops stuff in S3.
Nice.
Because I used to have some CSV files sent by the marketplace and always needed to go and authenticate with MFA and go to the bucket and go to the file and whatever. It took me so much time, and eventually I spent a few hours with ChatGPT and built everything in like
no way. You use ChatGPT to build it for you?
Oh yeah, all the things I do nowadays, I heavily use it. So
interesting.
Actually, I'm going to have a course on Udemy in which I teach ChatGPT, like all sorts of use cases and prompts for cloud development and DevOps and SRE.
Right. So, have you tried Code Whisperer to do similar things?
Not yet, but it's on my to-do list.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear you get your feedback when you try it, because I've been using it increasingly in my VS Code, and I'm loving it. I mean, it's a very different tool to ChatGPT, right? But for within the code, it's great. I think now it's one of those things that I don't think I could live without.
Well, actually, my next stream is next Wednesday on prompt engineering, which is
are you?
Yeah. Very, very cool. It's the developer part of all of that machine learning nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, I also use it mainly for writing code. And one day I just wrote a Chrome extension in like 12 hours from like hello world to JavaScript, all the way to publishing to the web store. So yeah, it was fun.
Yep. Yeah, see people just write apps from scratch, just using the right prompts and the right context.
In a completely new language that I never touched before.
Yeah, that's what I've done. I've done .NET, and I know, Derek, you're a .NET fan, right? I created I created a .NET UI for a demo I did for Apache Airflow, and I created the world's best joke database. Okay, and so effectively, I use Apache Airflow to orchestrate all the tasks of getting jokes from the web through an API, then putting them and organizing them and cleaning them on a local file system, then uploading them to a database. And what I really needed was a front end. And I thought, let's try ChatGPT, and everyone uses Windows, so let's try create a Windows .NET Core UI.
Wow.
And you know what? It worked. It worked. And I mean, I had to install some .NET tools. I now still have them on my Mac, actually. And it didn't work first time, right? But the thing is, though, that with ChatGPT, I used it to then troubleshoot my issues, right? And it just said that, you need to tweak this file here. So it's not just creating the original files, right? It actually allowed me to tweak the files I created. And within a couple of hours, I had a .NET front end for my demo. I now have Java. I have Python. I have a Node one as well. I'm missing Go, though. So maybe Go is the next one.
Go's next.
You can try Fine.
Yeah, I'll try Fine.
Actually, it also knows about Fine. So I actually used it for the UI as well.
Okay, cool stuff. So Cristian, before we wrap up with your spot, is there any shout outs or call to actions you'd like people who are maybe watching this this segment that you want them to do? Do you want them to check out your projects and contribute? Do you want to how can they reach out to you if they want to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking for contributors. I would really appreciate anybody interested to join. But anything, like, just if you want to build something, just go for it. It's so much fun. So
cool.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak in this show.
No worries. And listen, thank you very much, Cristian, for coming on the show and sharing us about autospotting. And hopefully for people watching, you found that useful, and hopefully you can start using some of these tools that Cristian's put together to help you optimize and save some money. So I think, Derek, 30%. We're on to the next segment of the show, which is News of the Week.
This is the hardest time.
Look at that. We did it. You have taught me well, Derek. You have taught me well. I am now a transition master. And you know what? I have retired the bell. The bell is retired.
Oh, you can just post it over to me and I can start bringing it.
So that was really great. Thank you, Cristian, again for
Christian.
coming on and talking to us about auto spotting. So now in this segment of the show, we're going to look at the latest open source projects for the last 2 weeks. So Derek,
do you want me to go first or second? Are we going to do paper, scissors, rocks, or
we should do that on live. Let's do paper, scissors. I like the idea. Okay, so on three, right?
Yep.
1, 2, 3.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
I was being lazy. I just So I think let me go first then. I think let's no. I think I'm gonna go first on this one.
Okay, you go first because it is the extra special, never been seen before.
This is never seen before. This is the stuff that I'm going to be publishing on Monday. So 158, and I think Derek, you're going to be looking at 157. So obviously, look, we are looking to the future. Look, May 29th. So hopefully, I'll last that long. Otherwise, it's going to be really weird, isn't it?
Let's take it a morbid turn.
Sorry, I will be there. This will be published. Okay, I've got it on a schedule. So I'm going to look at a few projects, but also before I look at the projects, there are a couple of things I want people who are getting the newsletter on Monday to look at. First of all, Open UK do amazing work in the UK around helping championing open source. They create reports every year that are used throughout industry worldwide. They're doing their 3rd annual report. So if you're an open source developer in the UK, then please take a look at that link and complete it. It took me about 5 minutes to do that one, so it won't take you that much longer. The second thing is we've got the London Summit coming up in a couple of weeks' time, and if I go down to the events section, so sorry about the scrolling, but the events section, which is down here all the way at the bottom.
So all this takes you right.
There we go. So we've got a really stellar team coming over to run the AWS Open Source Symposium. It's going to be really good. We've got some customers going to be talking about their open source journeys. There is, they're going to talk about developer platforms, data and AI. And this is going to be a really great place to see how open source is being done at scale and done well. So there are still some spots I believe available. So while they are available, they're probably going to go very, very quickly. Check out the event section, check out this link, okay, and make sure you sign up for it. So really, really important. And also, maybe I'll give a little sneaky while I'm here. My first in real event for a while, I'm going to be speaking at the London Open Data Infrastructure meetup on the 14th of June with a bunch of other data folks. It's a new kind of like meetup that's been organised by the lovely people at Avon.
Yeah,
check that out.
The Huckle's Shortage, is that a pub?
I think it might be. if it's not, it should be. It should be. So with that, I want to talk about some projects. So the first project I want to talk about, is it coming up? It's not coming up for some reason. Okay, why is it not coming up? Okay, well anyway, I'll talk. I think it's because I'm sharing the wrong thing. So this is not going well. So let's try and do a sharing whole screen this time. Sharing the entire screen. This is more like it. Okay, that's more like it. Right. Okay, so now it should work. So the first project, I don't quite know how to pronounce it. How would you pronounce this, Derek?
I would pronounce that. Well, it depends, right? In Kubernetes, are you a kubectl or your kube control, right? So if you're a kubectl,
I'm a kubectl because I'm cuddly. So I'm a kubectl.
That's a spectctl. Spectctl. I go spec control. So yeah, actually, there's 2 ways of pronouncing this, Rick.
It is, isn't there? So whichever one is your way, right? Whether you have pineapple or not pineapple, whether it's kubectl or kube control. Okay, this is a super interesting project, right? Because I have often waxed lyrical about how I struggle to get started with Kubernetes, but I love the simplicity of ECS, right? And wouldn't it be great if we had a tool that would easily translate, the configuration and manifest between the two? And guess what?
Yep. This is it.
Spec control, spec CTL, however you want to call it.
Transcends.
Exactly.
That.
Transcends this.
Yes.
And allows you to convert from one to the other, okay, using under the hood Terraform. Okay. Now I haven't had a chance to try this out yet, because literally this is hot off the press. I literally found about this yesterday. So I've not had a chance to do it, but I have read through the repo, and it actually provides a really nice sort of getting started example. of an Nginx application, I think it is. Yeah, there we go. And it basically allows you to show you how you can then sort of like go between ECS and EKS, right? So I'm loving this, right? I would definitely be trying this out, and I probably will write a blog post about it at some point, because this could really help me simplify some of my workflow. So I think this is a project that I think people should definitely check out. Once you get past trying to figure out how to pronounce
Spickhuddle.
Yeah. So that's the first project. Okay?
Nice. That's a good one. That is a good one.
Yeah. The second one, following on from obviously Christian's session, is EC2 spot placement score tracker, which we found out that Cristian used to work with Carlo. So what does this do? Well, it actually uses capability within Spot, which is this thing called Spot placement scores, which actually tracks metrics around the availability of Spot instances around different regions. Okay, and what this tool allows you to do is it basically logs that data into CloudWatch. Okay, and then allows you to create nice graphs. Now, why this is useful, is because then you can start to build based on the instance types you're interested in. Potentially start to think, well, okay, there's some areas, some times of the day, or some parts of that I'm more likely to get success in getting those the low spot scores, right? So I think this is one of those tools that you can use in order to assess and understand
predict the market.
Yes, predict the market. Exactly. It's basically, rather than you doing it all manually and doing it through spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff, it just basically automates the whole thing for you, right? And we love that. We love it when people make our lives easier like this. So definitely, following on from Christian's stuff, there's a whole bunch of stuff around, how you can, make it easier to use and consume Spot instances. And why wouldn't you, right? If it can save, you significant amount of money. Christian talked about, millions. Exactly. So it's big money. The next one, the last one before I hand it over to you, Derek, is EKS demo, right? So I wonder what this does.
Yeah, well, I'm like, that's pretty generic, Rick.
So what this does, is again, going back to one of the things that certainly when I'm trying to showcase how to do stuff. Getting my Kubernetes environment stuff, I tend to use CDK to build the whole infrastructure. And it takes me a while to do that. This is a tool that simplifies the creation of EKS environments for demo purposes, right? And it integrates over 50 different CNCF projects. So you can basically tailor your demo environments based on whatever you need, right? And it's really cool. So if we look down at the actual what's covered, right?
So what makes them
things?
What makes them a demo environment, Rick? Is it they're transient? What makes them a demo environment?
I think more. It's kind of like you want to do something, right? Just want to kick the tires of something. So these are and actually, to be fair, it does actually say at the bottom of this thing, the README, it does actually say how you would use. So basically for learning, right? For learning and demoing particular things, as opposed to using. So you wouldn't use this, right? For deploying to production. They're a better fit is EKS Blueprints, right? Which is another open source project that effectively creates, reusable patterns for deploying popular open source technologies. Okay. So I think this provides hopefully I think a good clarity around that. But basically it is used around getting up, quickly, so that you can do stuff. So really I'm thinking that the use cases here are learning. Maybe you've read a blog post and it talks about something and you want to try it out. You can get up and started quickly with this, and then it reduces the time it takes for you to worry about things like that, right? So I plan to try this out to see how good it is on that workflow, because increasingly I want to move away from me spinning up EC2 instances to do this kind of stuff, right? And seeing if this is going to be a good alternative. So definitely something to check out if you're all in on Kubernetes. Then EKS demo might be a good tool. So those are the three projects I want to talk about. Nice. So what about yourself, Derek? What have you? What's tickled your fancy?
Well, I've tickled my fancy. I did this. So as you can see, I used dark mode for my GitHub browser, and it's really hard to see. So I'll start actually with the log. So this is 157. So this is last week's blog. Rick, and another fine blog that you've written, sir. Very nicely done. So the bit I wanted to pick out, I'm sort of cheating a bit because when you weren't here 2 weeks ago for the last show, Rick, we talked about all the latest. Just excuse me for scrolling. All the latest releases from Cedar. So we just had the Cedar released on the open source market, and we had there was a lot of media around that, and in my mind, it wasn't nicely wrapped in what is Cedar, why would I use it, what are the benefits, and stuff like that. And then I saw your blog. I was like, that's it. You've captured what the essence of Cedar, what it is, why you would use it, etc., etc. And I must say,
well, I'll tell you what, Derek. So just so you know, just as we're on the Cedar Vibe, I've just literally recorded my session for the Dev Day Security, which is happening on I think June 12th, in Europe. And my session is actually on Cedar. It's basically how to build next-gen authorization into your applications. And I look at Cedar and how you can incorporate it. And we look at what it looks like under the hood by using the Tiny To Do application. So if you're interested in it, so that's coming up on June 12th. I'll be doing some socials on it. So so absolutely, it's really, really interesting.
Excellent. Yeah, it is. I think a lot of people don't understand the power of this, and it's very powerful. Very powerful. So yeah, nicely put, sir. So that's my first call out. And if anybody's watching doesn't know what Cedar is, hasn't heard of it, Rick's blog 157 is the place to go find out what you need. The TLDR really, and put some links to give you some more information. So that is my first call out from
actually, also, Derek, it's probably worth me shouting out that our good build on open source friend Ian McKay, he actually did, I think, to my knowledge, probably the very first blog post on Cedar policies. So way back, I think we're talking a few months ago, even before the launch, right? Yep. He did an amazing blog post. So thank you, Ian. It's a great blog post. It talks about more in detail around the Cedar policy language and how you formulate it and how it works. So I'm not sure if I actually specifically refer to it here in this post, but definitely something that you should be looking at. So thank you, Ian, for putting that together. It's an awesome blog post.
Nice work, Mr. McKay. Hat tip.
Yep.
So that's my first one, and the other two I'm going to mention is a little bit left field. So the first one is this one. It's called, and what got me into this one was don't shave the yak. So yeah, I've worked with a lot of people who yak shave.
Do you?
And I would love to. I have worked.
What does that mean? Because I think there might be some people who are joining, confusing, saying, "Oh, I thought I joined a tech show, not a veterinary, or hairdressing show."
Shaving the yak is just doing too much, trying to achieve too much, and you don't have to do it. You're just doing that 80-20 rule. You're trying to do 100.
Very good. Like that. Don't do it. Okay. I shall try and incorporate that in my language today. Don't shave the yak.
Yes. So this is a project called Cloud Radar. I should pronounce that properly. It's all about unit testing your cloud formation.
Oh yes.
Right. Yeah. And we all know that the problem here is I've got some logical expressions inside my cloud formation template, because if property equals blah, then do this, else do that, and those logical expressions are embedded in there, and they're never tested until now. So Radar is a nice Python wrapper, so you can write Python functional tests, and you can also, and they're all here. in this project. Some examples, some functional tests and how you would use it. And it actually, so you could do a search, you can pass in your own parameters, you can do all of that good stuff as you do and you should do unit tests. And if you're not familiar with testing cloud applications, please get familiar with it. And so it's actually a wrapper around a library that I didn't know existed.
Which library is that?
It is TaskCat, which I have opened somewhere.
Oh, okay.
TaskCat. Yeah, so TaskCat has been around for a while, and it is the part that generates the cloud formation that they can then be tested.
Oh, okay.
So it is TaskCat, and there it is, and it's part of a project called AWS
Oh, I'm familiar with that one. That is a project I do. I am familiar with. They do a lot of Terraform work, but obviously more than that as well. So yeah, they just really cool stuff. That there's a bunch of open source developers within AWS and ProServe that are doing some really, really cool stuff there.
Yeah. So it's so TaskCat is the thing that Cloud Radar is wrapping. So both of those projects actually I'm actually getting a 2-for-1 there.
Yeah, nice.
And
No, I did like the look of this one as well. I've got to say, because I think recently I published the equivalent to CDK, so you can do unit tests in CDK. So now you can do it in CloudFormation as well. There's no excuse now, right? There's no excuse for doing unit testing your infrastructure as code.
No excuse for YOLOing it into production. No excuse at all.
Exactly.
And also, I'd like to honorable mention 57 minutes is the AWS Reddit channel where it goes into a bit more
absolutely
info into what this is. And I'll stop there, Rick, because I had another one, but we're running out of time, and really,
we are. Time has flown, hasn't it? Time has flown.
As always.
Yes. So before we go, because this actually, Derek, I'm very, very emotional. This is the last episode of the season. It is. So, we will. So if you're watching, if you're a regular viewer of the show, don't worry. We will be back for season 3 at some point. We just need to find
always the best season.
Wonderful
Season
guests.
3 is always the best. Think of.
Do you think so?
No,
okay. I mean, I've not seen our IMDb stats. Whether. But if you are either a viewer of the show, and you think, I'd like to come on that show and talk about my open source project, then we would love to hear from you, wouldn't we, Derek?
Please. Yes. I'm sure we've got some links. Oh, we've got a Twitter handle, don't we? Yeah, we do. So make sure Derek and me, we're very out there on social. So yes, we are.
so just drop us a DM and say I'd love to come on the show, because we're looking to build up the schedule for the next show, and I'd love to see some guests from who are watching go from watching to actually presenting. So I think that's one thing I do before we go though. I do and would love people to complete our own survey. We use this to help improve how we support open source developers. It'll take you all of about 1 minute to complete. So please complete this so that we can better support open source. And I think, Derek, with that, I think that's a wrap for season 2. Thank you, sir, for joining me on this journey. It's been amazing as always.
My pleasure. My pleasure, sir.
All I can think of is for season 3. What is Derek going to look like? What's the visage? Will it be there or will it not be? That could be the cliffhanger, right? Season 2 cliffhanger.
I think we started season 2 with you with a beard, and we've ended with me with a beard.
Yeah, transference. It's dropped. Gravity falls.
All right, let's get out of here. Go on.
Yeah. So I think with that, thank you for watching for season 2, and watch out for season 3. We'll see you. Probably later on in the year.
Soon. Bye.
Cool. Bye.